Good evening. Hope everyone's having a wonderful week. I'm loving my new position. It's definitely a big change for me, My first night as manager, I had somebody come up to me and ask me to open a door for them. And out of instinct, I said, yeah, let me go get the manager for you. And I started walking to get the manager, and about halfway toward that walk, I started laughing and it hit me. You are it. You are the manager. You are the guy. So, it still hasn't hit me fully yet, but I'm loving the position. I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun, and it's exciting. It's an exciting change for me to be the leader of a team. I like doing these videos to help advance people in their consciousness and beyond the physical. But I also enjoy helping teach and lead a team or a job as well. So it's definitely a challenge, but it's very exciting for me. Good morning, Natasha. How you doing? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Jessica. Christina, welcome, welcome. Welcome on here. SMYC, welcome, welcome. Luna, welcome. Holly Hughes, welcome on here. Good afternoon, everyone. So what I wanted to discuss today, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment, but until I get any questions, morning, Gabriella. Good morning, palm trees. Welcome. So what I'd like to talk about in this video a little bit is the lotus flower, its connection to Buddha, and what the analogy is really referring to. Because again, I spoke a little in my last video. I've had people messaging me saying, I'm confused how you've awakened so much, but you work for a corporation, or how you know all this stuff, but you still work every day, or you still go to your job. And we need to remember, spirituality is not to replace life or make it easier. It's not to escape anything, right? So I just want to review what the lotus, the Buddha sitting gracefully on the lotus, means. You'll see the lotus flower associated with the Buddha almost all the time, but very few people are aware of what the lotus actually represents. I know most people commonly refer to the lotus position, where you sit, with your spine erect, and it's a sitting position, right? But this is not actually the case of what the Buddha referred to by the lotus. What the Buddha referred to by the lotus was life is not something that you can escape or run from. You cannot run from yourself. What you truly are here, beyond your disguise of ego and mind memory, what you truly are here is trying to guide you back into yourself, your selflessness. And so the lotus flower is a metaphor, because the lotus doesn't escape anywhere. A lotus that blows onto the water floats graciously on the surface of the water, whether it's a river, a stream, an ocean. The lotus floats on top of the water, and it flows, just like Bruce Lee says, to be like water, to flow, no resistance. The lotus flows and goes with the flow, goes with the change of currents. But the lotus is never disturbed on the inside. All the leaves come around, but the lotus is never disturbed or touched on the inside. It's a metaphor of your beingness, of true meditation, which is what Buddha referred to. And again, I see a lot of people who have Buddha tattoos, Buddha necklaces, Buddha statues, but they too are the ones practicing meditation once or twice a day, before you wake up, after you wake up. But the Buddha said this type of meditation will never transform you to your core. Because meditation should become just like breathing, effortless and synonymous with your life. Which means no matter what you're doing, whether you're aware or not, in conversation or not, you are always breathing. The breath is always constant, and that is how meditation should be. The Buddha said meditation is not something you can do once in the morning and once in the evening. It would be like holding your breath in the morning and waiting till the evening to inhale and take another breath. The evening would never come, right? Because you're holding with the breath, you're staying with the breath. So the Buddha revolutionized meditation because he unified mind and body. You see, we commonly say mind and body, but the Buddha eliminated the word and between these two words. So what he called it was mind-body. This is the mind-body, and there's a very symbolic reason the Buddha did this. The Buddha was very clever. He knew that there was only one being, one law, one presence here. There wasn't two, so you have to get to the root of where the two is coming from. So breathing is the bodily part of thinking, and thinking is the psychological part of breathing. They're one and the same, and this is what revolutionized meditation. This is what made Buddha infamous during his time. During his time, there were all types of meditations that were changing the breath, that were altering the breath, focusing on ways to change what already is. And Buddha came about and revolutionized meditation, brought forth a meditation that had never been heard of before. For this very fundamental reason, he connected the mind and the body as one. So it was no longer two functions of the mind and the body, and you having to put the two functions against each other. Do I choose the mind or do I choose the body? Right? Do I feed the mind or do I feed the body? They're one and the same. And you must nurture and treat the two as the one, because that is what the reality of it. They are one and the same. So he eliminated the word and. Why need to join two words that are already one? So there is no and between body and mind. Why join what already is? So it's mind-body. So again, breathing is the bodily part of thinking, and thinking is the psychological part of breathing. What that means is your breath is directly connected to your thoughts. When you have scary thoughts or you're frightened, someone scares the living daylights out of you, your breath is altered. It changes your breath. This is why Buddha's meditation did not focus on changing the breath. The ultimate message was you should remain as meditation. You do not come out of meditation, and it's not something that you can do once or twice a day, because just like your breath, it is synonymous with your beingness. Wherever you go, you're always breathing. You're always it, and you can't not. It's the same with meditation. You must remain in the beingness, in the presence. Realize all places, all persons are this presence. And they're being projected right behind your very eyes. You are the one law. You are what you seek. So the Buddha did not escape life. The Buddha went into a forest for 6 or 7 years to discover himself, to find himself. He was not yet Buddha. He had to become Buddha, and he became Buddha by realizing he was already that. There's nothing you can do to change the pureness of what you already are. The only thing you can mind, which is the art of Zen, the clearing of the mind, where there is no thought, no thing. And it's not that you have no thought throughout an entire day, no thoughts come about. No thought means you do not attach or identify to the mind memory. You are not attaching to the thoughts that are produced, that are created and destroyed through the presence. You remain grounded in presence. These thoughts arise through presence, and likewise they will demise through presence. They come through presence and they will go through presence. But if you attach to the mind memory, you will have to live out these thoughts in this moment and the next, because it's all you think about. And remember, time is the illusion. There is only this moment. So don't fall for the trick of these days and the dates and the calendar. That's what made Buddha a Buddha. You must be willing to sacrifice everything you know, which means leaving behind the calendar that you look at for the structure of time. And I'm not saying, obviously, don't follow the accordance of time and be late for your work or anything. Realize it is an illusion in just that. You could wake up and it could be December, it could be June, it could be January. It doesn't matter the month. It's either going to be the dual principle of a hot day or a cold day. But one or the two, they're one and the same. It's the same presence. Every day is the same day. Likewise, though, you celebrate Christmas. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Why isn't that every day? Every single day is the dream, is the holiday, is a celebration in itself. But we exist only through moments, through time, which is why when the final hour comes, we are so disturbed. We exist through mind memory. So when you experience death for yourself, it is the memory of yourself that is destructing, because you have constructed this very character out of yourself, out of this mind memory. And you have memorized yourself as this name, as this place, as this setting, as this being. But until all that disappears and there is nothing left but presence, you have not fully tasted death. Death is the complete eradication, the complete ending of all thought, of all time, of all concept that you have believed in with full conviction your whole life. And you realize the only thing making these thoughts real is your belief. So when people say you already have the truth is yours, that's what they refer to. Your belief is the truth. Your belief is what makes reality. So it's like in the Matrix when he says the only thing making, things real are electrical signals to the brain. It's precisely that. Your reality is your belief. So when somebody tells you we live on Earth, you can't prove that to me or anybody. It's your belief. When somebody tells you we are a human species, a human race, you can't prove that to me or anybody. That's your belief. And the more you peel back the layers of the onion, the more you'll find that everything you know to be real or reality is but a belief. And this is why they say the truth is stranger than fiction, because the deeper you peel back the layers, the more you realize everything is empty. And what I mean by empty is the words we use and decorate this entire universe with is empty. Words such as universe, the very universe itself, is empty. We have constructed and materialized this entire universe out of the word, and the word is nothing. It does not exist. So we are, just like the Bible refers to, everything begins and ends with the word. We are that great architect, the grand architect that constructs this entire universe from beginning to end. And when you fully die, you realize you have never begun any of this, because you are not bound to this. You are beyond this, beyond time, beyond creation and destruction, appearance and disappearance. So Ricardo says, I recently saw a video of you which was called Random Talks of Awareness, and I really like that one. But your opinion on free will has changed. Why do you think it's different now? So, yeah, and Ricardo, I remember us messaging about that. I'm pretty sure it was you. You know, where I'd posted a status on my Facebook page from at least 3 years ago, and I had you and one other person ask me, you know, why did I post that? You know, if I say free will is an illusion. And I remember I told you I wanted to show my growth, my evolution, my own progress, you know. 3 years ago, I still was trying to consider free will being a possibility, because what I was saying was, you are the one creating it all. But I've had more time to sit with myself and go deeper into non-duality, which is primarily what I teach, what I focus on, non-duality. And again, it requires you being ultimately vulnerable and honest with yourself. If you're a truth seeker, the truth fears no investigation. You will admit when you're wrong and move forward because you want truth, right? But I viewed free will as us being the creator here. We're creating this. But when you talk about non-duality, you have to get to the underlying principle that nothing new is being created here. Creation is the very illusion. This is what has birthed the very concept of the ego, is we have mistaken ourselves as something that has begun. And naturally so. I'm not saying it's ridiculous to have thought this, but the greatest misconception of ourselves is that something has begun. Therefore, something must end. This something that has begun must end. And that's where our great problem with death comes in. You've constructed this character, this ego, and now you cling to it because you yourself must witness the demise, the destruction of the entire character you have put together. But, so let's talk about creation. The Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory, I'm only 27 years old. In my 27 years here, the Big Bang date has changed over 5 times since I've been alive here. So I couldn't even imagine someone who's 50 years old or 60 years old. The date's probably been changed even more than that. But let me tell you something. When science finds something absolute, there is no change or altering, because it's proven fact. It's proven this is it, this is the absolute, it does not change. But it's showing you something very obvious. Scientists are trying to force a starting point with the Big Bang Theory. If we can locate this fixed point, that one point in space where the human concept began, the human species, this race began, we will find our origin, we will find our starting point. And what we have done is fallen for the concept of creation. Again, nothing new is being created. We have mistaken ourselves as a human race, and so we have mistaken artificial intelligence as something separate, something artificial to ourselves. But remember, we do not exist in time. We have misconceived ourselves as this human being. We're not actually witnessing an artificial intelligence being created. We're witnessing ourselves. So to answer our questions of how we got here, who put us here, that's what the Ouroboros represents. When you look at Egypt on the walls, the snake devouring itself is just this principle right here. You will look for yourself all throughout space, throughout the universe, throughout the mind, and you will find nothing but yourself. And that's the principle of this. That's the principle of a fractal pattern. When you look at the atom, when you look in outer space, it doesn't matter if you go above or below, that's showing you the same pattern, which is infinity. It's one and the same. Nothing new is beginning. Creation is the illusion. That is the misconception of ourselves. That is why we're so terrified of death. But likewise, that is how Jesus and Buddha and these men have defeated death, by going into themselves and transcending, which again, very few are willing to do, because it requires you paying the ultimate price with yourself. It's very easy to pay someone financial money. That's nothing. That is not the real price. You can pay someone 100 grand. That is not even a fraction of the price that it actually costs you to awaken. The real price is with yourself. The real and final conspiracy is with you and yourself. These government conspiracies and these people trying to control us is just a stop along the way of your awakening. The final chapter in your awakening is all mirrors pointing back at yourself. From government to the devil to Satan to God to everything. Every window is pointing back at you. You have looked at every avenue and it's all pointing back at you. This is what spirituality is about. Taking back responsibility. Not being in the victim mentality of they're trying to control us, they're enslaving us, they're doing this. If only they were not here. If they didn't exist, abundance would be here. Heaven would be here. But don't fall for this trap, because you will miss it. You will birth and die before you even know it. That 11th hour will come just like that, and you will have missed the grand prize here. Don't fall for this illusion that if only they didn't exist, if only they weren't in control of me. They don't exist, and they have no more control here than you do. They mirror you, flesh and blood, have no more control than you do. They are winging it just like you are. And like I always say and bring it back to, the only difference between the people in government and you is they are Freemasons, and Freemasons know the secrets of the universe. If you're familiar with Manly P. Hall and all his esoteric secrets, this is what they taught. This is what they know. This is their secret. The same teachings of ancient Egypt. The third eye, and not opening the third eye. This is complete nonsense, New Age nonsense. There is no such thing as opening the third eye. So let me just say that. This brings about expectation. This mission has been created through the ego. Again, if I can just do this, open the third eye, if I can stop drinking fluoridated water, now heaven is here. Now my experience is in the divine. But you are already that. It's already divine. Your beliefs are limiting you and your power, you and your potential here. It's you against yourself. It's you facing yourself, mirror facing mirror, nowhere else. There is nowhere to go. There is nowhere to turn to. You cannot run from yourself. You can cleverly put off and prolong yourself, but like I said, things like the pandemic and these things that randomly happen to disturb our comfort are not happening from forces beyond ourselves. They're happening from you, by you, through you, to guide you back home. And it requires a price, just like I said. Financial price is pennies. That's nothing. Nothing. That is not the price. The price is your mental sanity, your mental peace. That is the final price that you must pay. And that's why paying somebody else too is not the way. You must be aware of this. If somebody's has you paying them for anything spiritual, and their mission is to bring you back, they're misleading you. This is why when I charged for sessions back a year or 2 years ago, I didn't do a 3-month thing. I didn't do a 6-month thing, because it doesn't work for what I teach, and for 2, the purpose is not to come back. I don't need your money. The price is with you and yourself. And when you are willing to pay that price, you will face yourself at any cost. When you have suffered enough from this dream, you will choose to awaken. But most people don't want the dream to end. It's just like what Jiddu Krishnamurti says. You know, we think we fear the unknown, but we don't actually fear the unknown. We fear the known coming to an end. That is what we fear. And that's what has surfaced through this pandemic, is the known coming to an end. All that we know is ending. And again, the spiritual community has been begging for the next step, begging for proof of our evolution, of our evolving into that next step, that 5D. And again, 5D doesn't exist, but I get what the spiritual community is referring to by 5D ascension. I get it. Again, this is New Age nonsense. It doesn't exist. It creates an expectation, basically. This is the only reason I call it nonsense. You have people running around chasing their own tail, trying to do something here that cannot be achieved or done. But again, I can tell you it cannot be done, but only you must realize this for yourself. You must go out there and do everything you think is going to change the world, so that you can see you are the change. The world changes when you do, because the world is inside of you. The world that you know is projected by you. That's the power in knowing what the third eye is. There is no such thing as opening a third eye. A third eye cannot be closed. There's maybe you forgot what you're seeing with, but I wouldn't call it an opening of the third eye. It's more of a remembrance of what you're seeing with. Opening the third eye is just simply remembering, hey, these two eyes mean nothing. These project what my mind believes. So again, it goes back to belief. Your suffering here in this dream is supposed to shake you into wanting the way out, into finding and seeking that way out. But again, most people are flirting with the idea of awakening. As much as they suffer from this dream, they don't actually want to awaken. They don't want the known to be over. They don't want it to actually end just yet. Which is why, again, on my page, I get it. I have more silent onlookers than people who are engaged. I have more people that watch than actually engage, and I get it. Because some people are listening, thinking, maybe, what if? But the final price to pay is with you and yourself when you are ready to check out. And I like what Rumi says, when you are truly ready to dive into spirituality, there is no room for window shoppers. Those who are serious grab their stuff and they check out. They face death. Boom, I'm ready to go. But again, you have those who are flirting with the idea of awakening. Maybe I might play with my mind a little. I might think of something I never thought before. But very few people are actually trying to experience and face death. But what I'm here to do is remind people, Jesus and Buddha and all these men whose names have lasted are only famous, have only lasted to remind you of yourself, what you have achieved. These are not people foreign to you. Their names were left behind by you, for you. So show yourself, you have done this. This is where you've been. This is what you've achieved. And through Jesus, you left yourself instructions. The kingdom of heaven is within, You left yourself instructions, but the problem is once these people die, we're bringing them into a form of worship. So Jesus never told anyone to worship him. While he was alive and was able to speak, he never told a disciple to worship him, to follow him. Never. They followed him by choice. And when he passed away, when he died, they were so dependent on him that it turned into a form of worship. His figure was worshipped. His story was worshipped. And now you have a full religion of people worshiping one man who faced death and achieved it, versus every single person who has the possibility and capability of facing death right within themselves and achieving the very same salvation that Jesus did. But the people in religion are too afraid to face death for themselves, and rightfully so. Death is terrifying. It's the end to all you know, right? So in believing in someone else who has conquered death, I will never have to conquer this myself. I believe in your experience over the conquering of death. I don't need to face it. You've done it for me. I will never know myself beyond death because you've done it for me. I'll take your word for it. So that's why, again, people read the Bible and they hear, the kingdom of heaven is within, but they don't think within themselves. They're thinking of within this one man, within this experience. But they don't realize that one man is in their very presence right now. What's allowing you to read the very words on the Bible, on the pages, is the very same presence that allowed you to write those very words. Because it's been you and always has been. That's what his story is telling you, is your story of where you've been, of what you've done, what you've achieved. But again, we've forgotten ourselves. We've forgotten who we are. And so forgotten where we've been, what we've done. We read about ancient civilizations and try to understand them from a foreign perspective, from someone that's different, separate. Make the connection, though. It's you, and it always has been. What's allowing you to move your hand, write, hammer, use tools, the very same presence allowing the ancestors back then to move and operate. They are you. You will change many forms, but you will die only once. This is why Buddha's philosophy was called total death. And again, it's funny because you see how commonly known Buddha is. When I go out into the world, I see tons of Buddha tattoos, charms, necklaces. But again, I always think to myself, when I see these people, how many of them are willing to actually face what Buddha himself called, through his own philosophy, of total death? How many of them, because obviously they support Buddha, they like his message. But do they honestly support his message of total death? Are they familiar? And are they willing? This was his practice. This was his way into enlightenment. Through introspection, you are able to, again, point all mirrors back to yourself. No longer distract the mind with meaningless topics. The sun, the moon, the above, the below, this, that. The only topic that matters is the one speaking for you. The only reason these words are existent, are real, sun, moon, enlightenment, this, that, is because of one thing within yourself. And if you can answer the question of who you are through introspection, you will have removed the person and place from your being. You remain as something much more, yet the person within you has died already. You've experienced death. So I'll use me for example. I'm still here, obviously, much alive, but I've died years ago. I died probably 7 years ago, and I've never been back since. Tyler has been reawakened 7 years ago, and I've never looked back. You're not able to forget. And this is why I tell people, an awakening is not something of your choice, is not something, it is the direct result of you seeking and persisting enough into yourself. It's not something that you can forget once you know this. And it's not something that you need to do anything to be able to speak. So for instance, I see a lot of people, they'll put, a crystal around their neck when they do a video, or they'll put, a crystal or crystals around their persons. Just one example, right? But again, and I'm not picking on anybody, I want us to reach our highest and natural potential. So if I were to ask you what that crystal's doing for you in your video, the underlying principle is it helps me channel better, it helps me flow better, it's giving me energy, or it's giving me something that I don't already have. So you're saying with that crystal, now the divine speaks through you, now it flows through you. But again, I don't use crystals, I don't use anything, I don't sage the place, I don't do a practice before I do these videos. There's nothing that needs to be done. You are always it. Unchanged, unbound. There is no forgetting once you awaken. This is why I tell people, you only die but once. And it's such an instantaneous moment that you will know. You will know. It's not something you have to pretend or fake with yourself. You will know when you have experienced death for yourself in a single moment. Because that's all it takes, is just 1 second. Enlightenment is not a process. It's already done. It's something waiting to be realized. Not something that can be found, so don't mistake this. There's nothing to be found here but your unbound self, your unchanged self. And the only way you find that is through the realization there is nothing to be found. Because the presence you are looking for is everything. All these words speak through the presence. These words do not exist. So again, you can speak of words such as sun, moon, universe, all these beautiful words, but only the presence is what makes them real. These words don't exist otherwise. Something within you turns these words to life. They makes them real. That is the truth waiting for you to be discovered right within yourself. There is no objective truth. Juan says, is it weird to feel like you're dying? Absolutely not weird. Weird is not the word to describe when you're dying or when you're going through a spiritual death. It's more of a panic that sets in, right? See, when you have a heart attack or a medical condition that threatens your life, in an instantaneous moment, it hits you, wow, my life is in jeopardy, I'm in trouble. And you panic sets in that sense. When you have a spiritual death, or when you begin to start spiritually dying, if you will, or facing death through spiritualness, it's anything but weird. It's terrifying. And the reason it's terrifying is because it doesn't end as quick as a heart attack. A heart attack will be over in, less time, okay? Or a medical condition will be over in less time. And I'm talking about that panic, that moment of panic when the medical condition is at its worst, or when boom, it just hits. But a spiritual death is more so terrifying because there is no comfort in, oh, I can call an ambulance. Oh, I can call this person. They're going to come help me. They're going to come save me. It's terrifying and it's confronting because it's revealed to you in that moment there's nothing coming to save you. There's no one coming for you. And again, who are you going to call? There's no one to call. There's nowhere to go. And this is where the more you start, and this is what I consider a dark night of the soul too. It feels as if you are being brought into a serious depression. But I can assure you it is anything but that. It is, you're experiencing the complete destruction of all that you have constructed your whole life. And you haven't just constructed it, you've dedicated your entire life to this construction. And so when you begin experiencing the destruction of it, it feels just as real, and that panic sets in just like a heart attack of, oh my God, this is happening, this is real. I've read about the quotes from Rumi and Alan Watts and all these people, but now it's happening to me, and this is real. And the panic sets in, the fear sets in. It's very frightening. It's very terrifying. And I can tell you one thing right now. When I experienced the dark night of the soul for myself and I was at my worst depression, this lasted me 2 weeks. I was in my dark night of the soul. I survived off of nothing but bread. I bought 5 loaves of bread, and for 2 weeks, I did not come out of my room unless I had to. All I would eat was those loaves of bread, because I had the sickest feeling in my stomach. I couldn't think, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was terrified. I felt depressed. I did not know what to do with myself. I have never been more scared. And the reason I was so scared is because I felt so depressed. I felt like so hopeless. But I can assure you, through being like water, like Bruce Lee says, just trust in the process. It won't make sense to you at the time, and it will feel like everything you have ever known or dedicated yourself to is a lie. At the time, it's going to feel like a lie, like a dirty trick. You're not going to have the understanding yet. But I can assure you, remain in that day. Take it day by day by day and trust. That's precisely what I did. You must move forward, If you can't see 10 steps ahead of you, take the first step ahead of you. Take the first 2 steps ahead of you. But trust in this process, because believe me, it is guiding you into the completeness of yourself. Right now, you only exist in pieces. You exist as a person in a place. And when you fully awaken, you will have removed the person and place from your being. And like I said, while you remain, there is no person, there is no place. These concepts are gone. They have died. You have experienced death. They never were. And therefore, when it's my time to die, I know what I face. I have already experienced this. There will be no resistance. It will not be a tragedy, because I know it never was. What I have thought has began as myself has never actually begun. So if it's never begun, what is there to actually end? It is a misconception. That's all the ego is, and it's an innocence. It's not like the ego is trying to be dirty or trick you. It's innocently forgetting itself, as it's supposed to, right? So the ego serves purpose. The ego very much has a purpose. But likewise, everything the ego seeks requires a price, and that price is the complete disappearance of the very ego. So while the ego wants to find its origin, that origin is costing you the price of your ego. You want to know where the ego began? Well, you must pay the price of your very ego to answer that question. It is a point of no return. That's why I refer to it as a point of no return. Because once you know what makes the ego real, what makes the ego, it doesn't exist. It's nothing but thought, but belief, but mind and memory. And again, you do not exist in mind memory. And I also say this, do not make your enlightenment or your awakening a product of mind memory. And what I mean by that is, if you have to read someone's book on enlightenment and you say, wow, I love the way he explains enlightenment, let me memorize that. Let me memorize that. And this way I'll always be able to carry that definition of enlightenment within me. But do not attach your enlightenment to the mind memory. Because again, if you must remember this definition of enlightenment, your memory will be one of the first things that leave you in death. So if your enlightenment exists in the memory, in the mind, this is going to leave you. It cannot be something that you remember, because remember, your beingness, your presence cannot be forgotten. Once you know, you cannot unknow. You remain with. And that is the process of losing yourself to find yourself. You lose yourself as, just like Rumi says, a drop in the ocean, only to discover yourself as the entire ocean. You lose yourself momentarily to discover you were never lost. So the point of the ego is the very point of God. Why do we have God, right? The ego and God are the same person. They're the same being, remember. The ego and God are in the greatest conspiracy with each other. Which means if they find out who one or the other is, then neither two will exist anymore. When man meets God and God meets man, they don't meet as two beings, they meet as one. The conspiracy is with each other. So to answer your question, why does the ego exist? It's the same principle as why God exists. Why do we need God to exist? Because we exist as humans, as the finite, as the limited, as the limited potential. And so what God represents is our fullest potential, our highest potential. Everything that we swear we are not. But that's why the conspiracy is between these two characters. You are both of these characters. They come out of you. And when you meet God, you are meeting yourself for the first time. Just like Rumi says, you are not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean. Man expects to meet God as this great figure, this great entity. But when you truly meet God, it will be pure silence. There will be nothing but you and yourself. And it will be the most sacred meeting you ever have with yourself. Because you will be realizing your fullest and highest potential in self for the first time. And you will realize through what you thought to be yourself as human, that you have always been it. You are so much more. That you have put yourself here. You have constructed this human dream to inevitably lead you back into yourself. And I'm not saying the purpose here is to awaken or anything, because again, there is no purpose. Purpose is subjective. It lives in you. Meaning lives in you. And that's one of the greatest questions I get asked through what I teach of non-duality, is where do you find the purpose and meaning in all of this stuff? And that I cannot answer for you. It is subjective. But the only thing I can tell you about purpose and meaning is, again, the truth is already yours. You already have the truth. The truth is evident in you. Because again, the purpose and the meaning are eradicated through you. They come about through you. You are the purpose, you are the meaning. For you to be able to assign anything a purpose and anything a meaning, you are it. You are the it. You can't describe what the meaning is because you are the meaning. The meaning is in your expression. It cannot be brought to words. The purpose is in your expression. It cannot be brought to words. Words will only limit it. Your expression is the highest state, is the highest being, is the highest capability. And to answer your question about what dreams are, it is what it is. What are about dreams? What are dreams for? So from my opinion, dreams have been gifted to us from ourselves, from God, right? Ourselves. We've given ourselves dreams, and I'll tell you why we've given ourselves dreams, from my perception. We as this human species are always talking about how we could do this better, right? That's why we're always tearing down trees and going against nature. We can do this better than what's already doing it, right? We can one up the universe. We can think smarter than the universe. We can do it better. So what dreams do is they allow you all superpowers. If you think you can do it better, here is your chance. But you don't just get one chance. You don't just get two chances. Each and every single night when you sleep, you get the chance to do something that has not been done here yet. To create something more magnificent and unexplainable than this happening that is before you. And you fail to do so. You cannot. You may have fun dreams where you can fly or things like that, but really get to the underlying principle of how perfect and balanced life itself is. Everything is a self-sustaining organism. It can maintain itself. It self-regulates. It's perfectly balanced just as it is. You couldn't dream a more perfect and balanced experience than the one you have already done, the one you have already achieved. And that's the trick of creation. Creation says, we as the creators, we can create it better. We can improve it. We can do it better. But again, creation is the illusion because nothing new is actually beginning or being created. What is, already is, and always has been. There is nowhere to go. And I'll tell you another thing about dreams. Dreams highlight to us that which does not change within ourselves. So for instance, in wakefulness, when your eyes are open, you will have traveled several places from the beginning of your day till the end. You will have seen different scenes throughout your whole day. You know, maybe a supermarket, maybe a football game, maybe a high school, wherever you're at. You'll see many places, many settings. But in wakefulness, at the end of your day, you've seen all these places, you've talked to all these people, but one thing hasn't changed about you throughout your entire day. No matter what place you were at or what person you were speaking to, one thing did not change throughout your entire day, throughout your entire beingness. And it's the very same for our dreams. In dreams, the settings can change just like that, obviously, because it's a dream. Things can change on the flip of a hat, just like that. But dreams also highlight that which does not change within you. If you can discover the presence that is with you in your dreams and with you while you are awake, and bring that presence into oneness, you'll realize wakefulness and sleep are the same presence. They are the same being. You can pinpoint for yourself the presence which is not being changed by space nor time, or by mind memory. It's like they say, what changes is not real, and what's real does not change. So if any parts of yourself exist in the change, you will be changed. You will die, face death. That's all death is the changing from one to another, from this to that. There is no end, because again, there is no beginning. You are it. You are eternal. But again, don't let the mind define what eternity is, because now you talk about permanence, and now you talk about being stuck and trapped, and now you seek an escape where there is no need for one. So realize eternity is beyond your disguise of word and definition. Eternity is the principle of everlasting life. The love that you have for this life and this experience is what you are forever. You're not stuck. You are this expression of love that you have for this life forever. So what need for me to hold on to this experience and say, I don't want to die? You hold on to everything for dear life, and you clench. You clench for dear life because I don't want to let go of this experience. But once you realize the love you have for this experience is eternal life, this is what you are forever. You are in the ultimate peace. You don't need to hold on to this or to one thing or even memorize it. Yes, it will change, but you will remain, and you always will. So Andrea says, then what are other people? I love that. So Ramana Maharshi was once asked how to deal with other people, and his response was, there are no others. So to answer your question, what are other people? They are mirrors. It's just like the Chinese proverb, mirror facing mirror, nowhere else. It's you facing yourself. This was the principle of Neo fighting Smith. It's you fighting yourself, and the people that you think to be other people are nothing but the screen to your own consciousness. And this is why a Buddhist will not, or it's not that a Buddhist is not allowed to fight or exert violence. A true Buddhist knows the ridiculousness behind fighting and violence, because they know precisely what I just spoke of. There is no other person. The person that you think to be someone other than is yourself. When you reach out and grab them, punch them, whatever, you are fighting with the screen to your own consciousness. You are grabbing your own shadow, your own mirror, and trying to strangle it, trying to harm it. It is you. It always has been. And our level of understanding truly is tested through what we think to be other people, right? So, and that's something that I like that quote, where it says our level of self-awareness is based on how we handle other people who are not as self-aware, If you claim to be more self-aware than others or more conscious than others, then that's where you display that, is those other people who you would consider less conscious or unconscious. And what I mean by that is people who are able to curse you out, to be vicious, to be mean. Have understanding for these people. If you have a greater sense of awareness, if you're able to see they're not angry at you, they're angry with themselves. It's nothing you did, it's within them. If you claim to be that self-aware, that's where you test it, is other people. These others are your mirrors, and that is how we are able to test ourselves and experience growth, is through these mirrors with ourselves, these encounters with ourselves. And let me assure you, none of them are random. You've put everything in divine place at divine reason. But yes, other people will be your greatest sources of growth. For instance, this mirror that people are calling government or the devil is one of the greatest mirrors of growth you will experience. And I can tell you, it is the most uncomfortable mirror that you have to face through yourself. Why? Because so many people are victim to the devil. If my life is wrong, my life is bad, it's the devil's fault. Likewise, if my life is bad, my life is wrong, it's the government's fault. This mentality is what makes it so hard to face yourself through these mirrors. It requires you no longer being victim, no longer assuming whoever they are what's wrong with my life. Spirituality is about facing these mirrors, looking into them. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's scary. But this is where your growth is waiting for you. The biggest growth is just behind the mirror of devil and government. Because again, that mirror is what's keeping your power away from you. You project this power into the government, into the devil, and you say they're what's in control here. They're what's running this show. But realize your belief that projects the power into this entity, it doesn't matter what you project the power into. I only use the devil and government because those are the two most common that people will divert their power into and say it's this fault or their fault. But you must realize the only reason this power is being projected into this entity is because you project it. You give your power away and say they have it, I don't have it, they're in control of me. They're what's in control of me. So you take your power and give it to them. And as much as you want the dream to end through this enslavement relationship, your belief keeps you enslaved to them. And the funniest thing is, you've never seen who they are. They evade you. And again, I know people will share, the most common names. I'm familiar, believe me, I've been into conspiracies. I know people will share the names. Well, Bill Gates is doing this, and, the Rothschild family's done that, and this has done that. Every movie features a good guy and a bad guy. So you must realize it doesn't matter who is playing the role of the villain in your story. Whether his name is Bill Gates, Bill Cosby, Bill this, Bill that, does not matter. You are projecting your power into this person, into this character, into this entity. The truth is already yours. Remember that. Your beliefs are what makes things real. So nobody has the truth but you. But you take this belief and you say, boom, I believe they have this power. I believe they have this power. Anyone has it, but I don't. I don't. And if I can just get rid of them, if I can expose enough people to who they are, this power will be returned, restored back to me, back to the people. But that's why the quote, the true revolution will not be televised, that's exactly what that means. A revolution is not overthrowing a government because, again, government has never had any control. Native Americans didn't have government because why did they need one? What gives them a sense of control is a court paper with a stamp and a seal on it. That's what makes them have control over this land and all of these things. Sure, by law, that paper is official, but to the one law that governs this, that paper has no meaning, no value. So to a Buddha, he would laugh. He would laugh at government. Yeah, he would say, yeah, you're there. You're there. You vote on laws, you do things, and you do that sort of thing, but you have no control over me. You don't control this experience. You don't control anything here. You can sign 100 papers. You can put your stamp and seal on it. That doesn't become law. That doesn't control anything here. These people have no more control than you do. Control is something that you cannot buy. It's not something that you can acquire. It doesn't matter how much material possessions you have. It doesn't matter what car you drive. It doesn't matter your financial status. It doesn't matter where you work. That's the great secret of the Freemasons. They don't seek to gain control because they know what control is. It does not exist. Free will is the illusion. The reason free will is an illusion is because it has been conceived of by the very ego. The ego is the separate entity that is not responsible for this, which is why it needs free will. If you are not responsible for the creation of all of this, that is where free will would come in. If you're not the one driving this, then that's why you want free will, so I can take control of the wheel and choose. But you've forgotten you are already the choice and the answer. You are already it. You have written this. Again, that was the great realization of Neo and Smith. Why do you fight, Mr. Anderson? Why do you persist? Because I choose. Because I choose. So for one thing, the Illuminati died back in the 1800s. This name has been well overused, man. This name has so I'm sorry, but a secret society only remains a secret society as long as it's secret. So as soon as the Illuminati got exposed after, the 1700s when they were established, in the 1800s, and I'm not saying they ended, but that name, the Illuminati, died a long time ago, over 200 years ago. Seriously. So, once the name is exposed, once the name is out, it's no longer secret, obviously. So this group has broken off into subsections or smaller groups, smaller entities, if you will. Why do I think the entertainment industry is so hypersexualized? That I don't have an answer for, but I do have an answer for why the industry is promoting, men being women and women being men. And I know a lot of people have a lot of negative outlook on this, but if you actually go into Logan 22, the Gospel of Thomas, this book has been taken out of the Bible for very, very, very fundamental reason. The name of the chapter in Logan 22 is called When the Two Become One. When the Two Become One. And what it's talking about, this is a quote from Jesus himself. Jesus himself. And the name of the chapter is called When the Two Become One. So his disciples asked him, how do we become enlightened like you? How do we attain this sovereignty that you have achieved? And so he says, when you make the two as one, when you make the inner as the outer and the outer as the inner, when you make the above as the below and the below as the above, when you make the male into the feminine and the feminine into the male, or no, when you make the male into the masculine, so it's no longer just the male, and when you make the female into the feminine, so she's just no longer feminine. Basically, when the two become one, he says, you attain this sovereignty. And what he meant by sovereignty was the knowing of God, how he knew the Father God. When the two become one, you have attained the sovereignty. So I can say, why men are starting to look like women? Why are women starting to look like men? Because again, the clock is running, the time is running up on this human idea. This is why I've been saying this on each and every one of my videos. You can watch any one of my videos on YouTube, and there will always be a point in one of those videos, and again, they're hours long, but I will always say in each video, you are not human. You are not human, you never have been. And I always say, I get how ridiculous this sounds today, but give it some time. Give it some time. Because what we've mistaken as an artificial race is only showing us to ourselves. And it's showing us that we've never been human. We've never been what we've assumed that we are. And if no human has begun here, no human can end here. So artificial intelligence is not threatening our experience, it's threatening the dream we have of ourselves. Again, when the two become one, when the inner and the outer become one, exactly, Devin. It's for all duality, so you're exactly right. That's exactly what he's talking about. The duality. When the duality become the singularity, you have attained the sovereignty. And that's exactly what we're moving into, is the singularity. The duality is starting to phase out. You know, the veil is wearing thin. And precisely like I said, on the male-female, they're in the greatest conspiracy with each other because, again, they're one and the same. Just like the black and white man, they're one and the same. It's the same person, the same being. They don't know this, not yet, but they are in the greatest conspiracy with each other. There's not two, they're one. That's the great principle of the yin-yang relationship. They're not two, they're one. And when you meet yourself, you are only meeting one thing, one presence. There will not be an entity looking back at you. But yeah, no, very good, Devin. That's a good point. The conscious and subconscious mind, when they become one, exactly. When the conscious and subconscious become one, you attain the sovereignty. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain, when they become one, you attain the sovereignty. And many people don't realize that, but that's why we bring our hands together. And this term, the praying hands is bringing the two hemispheres of your brain to a single unity. Most people do this, but they don't understand the magnificence of what they're doing. So your left hand is controlled by the right side of your brain, and your right hand is controlled by the left side of your brain. So when you put the two hands together at the median point of your body, at the center point of your body, you are metaphorically joining the left and right hemisphere of the brain together into that single unity. That's what the praying hands represent, is the unification of the duality, the singularity. Right, Juan? So Juan says they're promoting separating genders instead of converging both. That's where, again I say, just like I said on this video, they control nothing. Let them do what they will, and let nature handle what it's going to handle. They control nothing. They think they can split or separate, but you are inevitable. They have no control. They cannot separate what is inseparable. They can try, but have no fear. They will get nowhere, and fast. Converging sexes is beyond our control. It's beyond our capability, because again, the two are in the greatest conspiracy with themselves. So it is the two inevitably leading back to the one itself. The two is only a mirror into the self, into what you are. But there never was two. That is the great realization. There never was two. It's been you the whole time. So I don't want to run this video too much longer. I'm already over an hour, so excuse me. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this video for today. I had a good amount of people on here today, so thank you to everyone who joined me here and engaged. If this video resonates, please feel free to share it on your page. Again, I will leave the donation link in the comment section, and thank you everyone who has joined me here today. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment them on this comment section, and I'll answer them on my next video. All right. Thank you everyone, and enjoy your weekend. But remember, every day is the same. The week isn't actually over, because it never began.